once again. For those of you who have been following my lessons on YouTube, thank you so much. And for those of you who have just joined, you are most welcome. And I encourage everyone to like this channel, to click on the notification button, in that as I will always be posting, you can get fresh videos that I will be uploading. Therefore, like, share, and click the notification button. Thank you so much. Today we are going to look at the introduction part on the changing role of international organization, whereby we are going to look at the two international organizations, that is the League of Nations and the United Nations. However, we are going to first of all understand the League of Nations, because the League of Nations was the first international organization which was established immediately after the end of the First World War. So let's look at the League of Nations. For those of you who still recall the end of the First World War, the World War I ended in 1918, end of the World War I. This is the time when the war ended, and it ended with the signing of the armistice. So the armistice, this was an agreement that was signed to cease fire between the Allied powers and the Triple Alliance, which was Germany. Now, here we are going to look, when the war was ceased, we are going to see in the following year of 1919, there was what we call the Treaty of Versailles. The Treaty of Versailles. So, end of the World War I, 1919, Treaty of Versailles, 1919. So, in the Treaty of Versailles, we saw different countries that were called for purposes of calling for peace in the entire Europe. However, we are going to see different countries and they were represented by who. So, the League of Nations, before we look at how it was formed, we are going to base much on the Treaty of Versailles. In the Treaty of Versailles, we are going to see that Woodrow Wilson, the US president at the time, came out with 14 points. Woodrow Wilson, 14 points. 14 points. But we are not going to talk about 1, 2, 3 up to 14. No, we are going to look at the point that came and talked about formation of international organization. So it was the 14th point. It was the 14th point that talked about formation of an international organization. Formation of an international organization. That means the formation of the international organization was the idea of the US president at the time called Woodrow Wilson. Therefore, in the following year, the year of 1920, we are going to see the organization was established. Therefore, 1920, we saw formation of the League of Nations. Formation of the League of Nations. So, we are going to say, what is the League of Nations? The League of Nations is, or was the international organization established in the year of 1920 after the Versailles Peace Treaty of 1919. The organization was formed as an idea of the US President Woodrow Wilson, and therefore there were some major countries that became permanent members of the Council of the League of Nations, the Big Four of the League of Nations, whereby we had countries like Japan, countries like Britain, countries like France, countries like Italy. One would ask, why is it that USA, which brought the idea, was not part of the League? Woodrow Wilson, after moving back to the US and negotiated in the parliament, the US citizens refused and used the isolation policies, and they said that the matters of Europe are for Europeans only. Therefore, USA should not enter into the issues of Europe. So using the isolation policy, USA was not part of the League of Nations. Countries like Russia, they were not part at the beginning. Countries like Germany, they were not part at the beginning because Germany was not going to be a member of the League of Nations, and yet it was blamed for the Treaty of Versailles for causing the World War I, where we saw the blood coming out. Germany was to be blamed. Germany was to pay the war reparation or the war indemnity. Germany's army had to be reduced. The territories of Germany had to be reduced. Therefore, Germany was not part. So, this is the formation of the League of Nations. So, the League of Nations was formed with aims for the formation, of the League of Nations. Number one, to prevent future wars. That was one aim. How did this one come about? If these countries, we saw that there was a war which was threatening to come once again because Germany would not accept or take in what the Versailles Treaty was all about. Therefore, there was an anticipation that another war may break out because of the terms of the Versailles Peace Treaty or because of the invasion. Therefore, the League of Nations was formed with the aim of preventing the future wars. Number two, to protect sovereignty of independent states. One of the reasons that caused the World War I was invasion. Different countries invaded others. For example, we looked at Austria-Hungary invading Bosnia. We saw Serbia coming out, carrying on the assassination of Archduke, which resulted into the World War I. So there was a need to protect sovereignty or the independence of different countries, because if the independence of a given country is tampered with, a war may break out. Therefore, the League of Nations was formed with the aim of protecting sovereignty of independent states. Number three, another aim was to protect human rights. Under human rights, we are going to see that the things that caused the World War I, among them, there was mistreatment of different people in different countries. So the League of Nations came out with one of its structure called the International Labour Organization, the ILO, International Labour Organization, whereby they came out with the ways how employees would work, from what time to what time, to end slavery, because slavery was one of the major effects of the World War I. So the League of Nations was formed to make sure that human rights are protected. So this is another aim for the formation of the League of Nations. Another aim for the formation of the League of Nations was to make sure that countries use negotiations or intermediations to end conflicts. So, usually one of the reasons why the League of Nations opted to use negotiations or intermediation to end conflicts was that so looking at use of negotiation or intermediation to end conflicts. So we are seeing that the League of Nations opted to come out with a specialized commission to always stand in the countries that are willing to fight or they have disagreed, to make sure that they end the conflict without these countries fighting. For example, we are going to see different achievements of the League of Nations, whereby we are going to see different countries were intermediated and the war didn't occur. For example, the Swedish-Finnish War over Aland Islands, the League of Nations used intermediation and the two countries accepted what the League had resolved on. We are going to look at the German-Poland over Upper Silesia. The war didn't take place, however much the countries had disagreed, the League intermediated. We are going to look at another achievement of the League of Nations using intermediation or negotiation in the Corfu dispute. So there are very many other achievements of the League basing on the aims. Therefore, today our lesson will end from here. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to click the subscription button, like and share. Thank you so much.